Yes, we have a couple of season previews to go. Of course, we'll talk about Auburn on the final preview, but now talking about the men of Troy. That's right, USC, Southern Cal. We remember last year, 9-4. Remember, this part of the decade has really been dominated for USC by the probation. Thanks to Reggie Bush and him accepting gifts from agents back in the mid-2000s. Eventually that caught up to USC, limited them in scholarships for several seasons this decade, but they're starting to come off that, and the 85 scholarship limit, getting close to that, and that should really help with the quality depth. I mean, they've been able to put terrific talent on the field, but when you suffer injuries and when you suffer the wear and tear of football, if you don't have those backups that are capable of giving you high productivity, then you're going to suffer. And a year ago, again, 9-4. 3 of those losses, though, were by within a touchdown, and that included a Hail Mary loss at home to Arizona State. So it could have easily been a double-digit winning team for Steve Sarkisian. Speaking of Steve, of course, this summer made headlines, but not the kind of headlines you want. Speaking at an alumni rally, several of the past USC players and coaches were on hand. Of course, the current student body. Not exactly a thing you want to do if you're Sarkisian, speaking in front of those at the podium and, disrespecting the competition and yelling the F-bomb. And, of course, he attributed that and, apologized and admitted that alcohol and narcotics, played part of a role in that. So he acknowledges that he has a problem. And, even though Pat Hayden, the athletic director, did not suspend him for any games, the players did. I mean, Sarkisian allowed the players to implement any kind of punishment that they wanted. Well, guess what punishment they made Sarkisian do? Up and downs. That's right, running in place as fast as you can, and then when you hear the whistle, you drop to the ground immediately, and then you pop back up like a slinky, and you repeat the cycle several times. That right there is excessive misery, as they would say on Hee-Haw. But Sarkisian definitely had to pay the price in front of his team. And you hope for Sarkisian's sakes he's got that, the medication and the alcohol issue that's under control. And, hopefully he doesn't make himself an ass in front of people again, because stuff like that gets on YouTube and gets played over and over again on SportsCenter, and you become a headliner, but not for the right reasons. Well, USC, they're going to be a headliner this year if all goes according to plan for the good reasons. And that's because they return a ton of talent, again, from a team that won 9 games. And, big reason why people are really high on SoCal is because of Cody Kessler. Talk about a guy that threw for over 3,800 yards a year ago for the men of Troy, 39 TDs, and only 5 interceptions, nearly 70% completion. That's pretty filthy. And Kessler, again, is back, and he's going to be one of those Heisman Trophy candidates. Now, the running game, no doubt they're going to miss Javarius Allen, over 1,400 yards on the ground. However, they've got a couple of guys, not just one, but 2, who should be very productive. Talking about Justin Davis, the leading returning rusher, had nearly 600 yards a year ago and 4.6 a carry and 4 TDs. USC, though, pretty excited, though, about getting another guy that should complement Davis. And this is a guy they've had before, but you didn't see him last year because of injury, and that's Trey Madden. 2 years ago, over 700 yards rushing. And, by the way, he had about 5 yards a carry. So, you have Madden, you have Davis, and these guys combined should make USC a two-dimensional team. I say two-dimensional because receivers look good as well. Yeah, you got to replace the likes of, Elson Aguilar as well as Randall Telfer and George Farmer. But you have back Juju Smith, 14 yards a catch a year ago for SoCal. And again, you have him coming back, and that should really help USC's cost through the air. Over 700 yards receiving, 54 catches. Darius Rogers complimenting him with 21 catches and 245 a year ago, about 11 yards a catch. And Adoree Jackson, freshman from a year ago, now a sophomore, plays both receiver and corner. So he's going to be a pretty busy guy, but he's that good of an athlete. Stephen Mitchell rounding out the receivers. In terms of the offensive line, just about all of them are back, okay? And that includes Max Turek, the all Pac-12 player from a year ago at center, could be All-American this year. Chad Wheeler occupying that left tackle spot and the left guard spot. Damian Mama, right side, looks good with right tackle Zach Banner. And at the right guard, running out the lineup, Bielmi Tala Mabo. So, and that guy last year, just a freshman, got action, now entering a sophomore year, going to play a lot more. So USC's offense, they rolled last year, averaged a lot of points per contest. And again, Kessler is probably the biggest reason why USC fans are pretty optimistic that their team will easily beat last year's 9-win total. Now looking at the defense for the men of Troy. And you're no doubt going to miss Leonard Williams. He was a pretty high draft pick from a year ago, 64 tackles, 7 sacks. That's more sacks than the rest of that defensive line had put together. So to say that you're not going to miss that guy, you'd be kidding yourself. But you do return most of that defensive line from the 3-4 alignment of Justin Wilcox. So his defense will feature the likes of Anthony Woods at nose tackle, 27 stops a year ago. And defensive tackle, you'll have Delvin Simmons, 34 stops. And how about Claude Pellon, 16 tackles. And by the way, 6 of those tackles were for loss of yardage. So productivity is there for USC, and they have a couple of seniors as well that'll provide a good rotation as far as the backups go. So no problem as far as defensive line. As far as linebackers, it's going to be a mixture of seniors as well as underclassmen. The seniors first, Anthony Sorrow, you'll have him at the weak side linebacker, and middle linebacker Lamar Dawson. Probably didn't remember him from last year. Well, that's because of the fact that he kind of fell into that same category as Trey Madden. That's because he was injured. But now you get him back for a full year. At least that's the plan. And Scott Felix, you'll have him a junior at the rush linebacking position, and strong outside linebacker rounding out the lineup for USC. Sua Cravens, 17 tackles for loss of yardage. And this guy's stock has really, really risen. And we'll see if he finishes his career as a senior or if this is it for him as a junior. He's one of those linebackers to watch. Your secondary, you're going to really benefit big time because of the amount of experience you have back. Although, it's fairly young for the most part. Had a couple of freshmen a year ago for USC, corner. Mentioned him earlier, Adoree Jackson. I think he's more of an impact player defensively than offensively, although he can play either. Speaking of freshmen that will be impactful, John Plattenberg, strong safety, and free safety, Leon McQueen III. Rounding out the lineup for USC as far as the secondary goes, corner and Kevin Seymour, the only starting senior amongst this group. So this should be, again, a very athletic squad. Again, plenty of supporting cast members that can come in on a rotation basis. So USC is going to have more depth than they've had in a while. Punting, you'll have Chris Alvarado, 41 yards per boot, and Alex Wood with the place-kicking duties. If you're looking at the schedule for Southern Cal, first 2 games should be easy breezy with Arkansas State, coming into the Coliseum, pretty much this weekend, September 5th, and then after that, Idaho on September 12th. Then it gets serious because Pac-12 play will be on September 19th. Stanford and USC has had some recent success against the Cardinal, including upsetting Stanford at Palo Alto in a low-scoring game a year ago. And then, of course, memories. We're talking about the following week, September 26th. Anybody forgotten about the Hail Mary in Los Angeles? If you're a USC fan, didn't think so. Of course, you have Arizona State, but this time you play them in Tempe. Of course, that was a game last year where Arizona State scored on the final play. October, at least you have a little while before you play another game. You host Washington. That'll be on a Thursday night, October 8th. And out of conference, but it's a big game because Notre Dame returns nearly everybody from a year ago. And last year we know that USC absolutely crushed the Irish, so I'm sure Notre Dame hasn't forgotten that. I'd be curious to see if Notre Dame thickens the grass up like they did 10 years ago when the Southern Cal Trojans were number 1. By the way, USC had to come from behind to win that game in the final seconds from back in 2005. 24th, you get Utah. Now, the Utes a year ago pull up the upset in Salt Lake City against Southern Cal. And then, speaking of Cal Golden Bears, you get them on the road. Not too bad of an offense, but defense is pretty much stinks for Sonny Dyk's squad. But you get them on Halloween at Berkeley. And then November, Arizona, get them at home, go to Colorado, and then the final 2 games could be the toughest because you go to Oregon November 21st. Could be the first of 2 meetings between the Trojans and Ducks. And you round it out with UCLA. And I know the rest of the Pac-12 doesn't want to hear this. I personally think college football truly is at a very high level when both USC and UCLA are very good at the same time. And that seems to be the formula. Could decide the Pac-12 South. This year the 2 teams play at the Coliseum. UCLA lately has owned that robbery. And, of course, Pac-12 championship the following week at Santa Clara. I think USC, they look primed for a double-digit winning season easily. I see them losing one game. That'll be to Oregon, but I see them getting revenge on the Ducks in the Pac-12 championship game. 12-1 is my pick, and if you've already seen my segment on my 14 playoff recently, you know that I've got USC picked to go to the college football playoff. That's my look at the Trojans. Catch you later.